Okay. You know much about that? Okay. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But yeah, well, click, but also like multi-track player. That so some of the instruments that you don't have. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about that. What I won't talk about as much, except for let me just start this way. I'm going to go through this list. The reason I gave it to you is because I'm just going to scratch the surface on some of these. But if something kind of resonates, you think this would be good for us, go back and dig in a little deeper. But I'll just kind of introduce it to you, and just offer some options. Some of the things you may look and think that we've moved past that, or whatever. So I understand that. There's a resource. I'm pulling up first Worship Backing Band. Worship Backing Band has multi-tracks. They also have, and I shared this more in some of the other sessions, they have a DVD series. And this is for those really smaller churches that don't have instruments or don't have players at all, or it's also great for small groups. And so this would be maybe where it fit with you guys. You've got a small group that wants to sing, and yet what these are like the next generation of, I don't know if you remember a decade ago, the iWorship DVDs. Well, basically you'd plug those in and you had to stop and start wherever you wanted to. Well, what this Worship Backing Band, let me pull up that site. They have a set of these DVDs that you can order. This DVD compilations. And each one of them has about 35 songs. Some of them are seasonal songs. They don't have as many hymn kind of things as more modern stuff, but they've come out with a new one that's more hymn related. So they realize that they're missing an area there. But the way this is set up is you can drag and drop everything over to a laptop or desktop, whatever you have. And then the song sets are customizable. And so all the 35 songs on the DVD, you can drag over there. You can create song sets with them. You can put them together, and then it creates like a seamless kind of thing. So if you have a band, it's not for your worship service, but for small groups, it'd be great. For a youth group, it'd be great that if they don't have a worship band or something like that. And you can drag it into any kind of media player. I use iTunes usually for mine. And I actually, for one of these events last year in Dodge City when we were doing one of these leadership things, like you guys did this morning, instead of me having the band up there, I actually led worship that way using one of these tracks, because some of those single staff church guys that have nobody to play, nobody to sing, I used my laptop, I used this Roland Cube, and used Worship Backing Band, and I used a Lifeway worship thing I'm going to show you too. It's also integrated where you can create song sets. It's not customizable other than creating the song sets. So you can't change the backgrounds. The text is integrated in addition to the accompaniment, so it's all integrated together. It's also split track, so you can add voices or take voices out. And so I'll play a little bit in iTunes just to let you see what it looks like. Might be something, even though you wouldn't use it in your worship service, you might use it for something else. I'm going to come back to Worship Backing Band too, but let me just show you how I've got this set up in iTunes. So I'll just start it with this one. So really what that means is if you got anybody that's tech savvy at all, they could set it up, and once you start it, you don't have to change slides, because it's all just integrated. You can hear a little bit of voice in there, and so you can either through the sound system adjust the balance, or sometimes I'll just do it through my Mac and do the balance here. And so you can adjust, take the voices out, or add more voices to it. You can add just more voice volume. Yeah. So if it's a small group and people don't sing much unless they've got a little help, that helps. Let me show you this. So let me show you how it then transitions toward the end of the song. And so it just kind of plays out, and then it kind of just seamlessly goes into the next song. And so you can create song sets, and they all do that. It just flows in. Well, that one started because I I didn't have it back at the beginning, but if it was the beginning, we just start at the beginning of that. So it's a great tool for, obviously, if you don't have any players or for a small group or something like that. Now, Worship Backing Band also has, and this is where I was asking you guys about the multi-track stuff. That's not what I want. Worship Backing Band also has a multi-track player, and then they have multi-tracks available too. Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't have to, but if you're really going to use it, it'd be hard. Right. Yeah. So it's got click. You can do loops, all that kind of stuff. I've listed on here several companies. I'm just going to show you Worship Backing Band, but Loop Community is another one. Band in Hand's another one. Fly Worship is another one. It's not on there, I don't think, but there's several that have options. And so what the multi-track player looks like, it's actually digital. So for like your group, our worship band at our church in Topeka, Gary is also a member there. He sings on the worship team. On any given Sunday morning, they're going to have a rhythm guitar player, sometimes lead guitar player, a drummer, keyboard player, bass player, and some vocalists. But even with that pretty strong rhythm section, and they're really good, they use multi-tracks to add strings or to add some of those parts. But on how the multi-tracks work is you've got actually a digital mixer, and especially it's good for those churches that have finally been able to add a guitar player and they have nothing else, but they'd like to have a band sound. And so they can add bass players, they can add keyboard, drums, vocal, they can do all that kind of stuff on the multi-track. And so you just buy the track itself, and then whatever instruments you have, you're able to filter the live instruments, you filter those instruments out, and you can bring up the volume of the instruments that you don't have on those multi-tracks. So it's a great tool option for if you want to expand a little bit more. But like you said, in-ears is really almost a necessity for that. Are you guys using click tracks at all for your drummers or anything? Okay. That's another option for this is clicks. And some people think, okay, I don't want to use a track because we're kind of locked into that, and we want to. They're digitized, so you can create your own arrangements, and you can even do loop backs and stuff like that with it. So it's really set up to give you freedom to do some things like that. Even on the fly, you can loop back and pick up a chorus and stuff like that on the multi-track stuff. Right. Yeah, yeah. You especially. I mean, I think if you're going to pick who gets it first, the drummer's obviously the one you want first because he's the one that's pretty much driving the rhythm. Unless you're doing it from rhythm guitar, some. And I don't know if you've ever. I'm going to show you some DVDs later. And Paul Balash, you've probably done some of his songs before. He talks about when a worship band, they start with a guitar player, and usually it's a rhythm guitar player, and he's trying to play everything. He's trying to play drums, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, bass, everything actually on the rhythm guitar by himself. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the way it somehow, and so then when they start adding instruments, he talks about playing economy. And so that gives the freedom then for the rhythm guitar player to play in different places, and where it didn't have to always play that driving kind of beat. So I would say when you're, if you're moving toward the in-ears, especially if you're doing a click track, drummer obviously needs it, and then the primary vocal leader, guitar player would need it. Not everybody would have to have it though. I know, Gary, you use in-ear when you're singing. Some of the singers don't. They don't feel as comfortable using in-ear, or they use one and not both. Yeah. Yeah, because you want to hear the congregation. Yeah, you want to completely filter out the congregation. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So in that situation where your drummer is not the one that's setting the beat for you, you wouldn't want him to have a click track. You know, you as the primary leader, if you're driving that, but if you've got good drummers and they're setting that beat and they can stay on it once they start, you know, the click. We've got some really good drummers at our church, and we've got some that aren't as good with click, and so they actually get off when the click is playing even too, and that's especially if you got a lot of in ears and everybody's hearing the click track at the same time, the drummer's not with that. That's can cause a problem. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's I mean, this is going beyond what we were talking about too. But if you do any streaming of your services and stuff like that, it's great to have the room mic too. Because if not, if you're streaming, all you're primarily getting is that main worship leader. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, live in the room it sounds great, but when you put it online, you wouldn't want somebody to go to that and think, "Oh, I'm not going to that church," if that's what it sounds like. So it's difficult to stream. We're not streaming any music. We're just streaming the sermon in our services because it's just too hard to get a balance. So this is the multi-track option is there. You buy the player, you buy the songs. The songs are not cheap. They vary in prices, and each multi-track company varies in prices. I'm going to show you a site later that's a website. A friend of mine that's my counterpart in North Carolina, and he's got a worship a site called Renewing Worship NC NorthCarolina.org, and he often does comparison kind of things on there. He's real practical. So his post from this last week was a comparison of all the multi-track companies on pricing and options and all that kind of stuff. So I'll show you that in just a minute. So that's just another option there of multi-tracks to think about down the road. You know, if you've got a really strong band, it's not a necessity, but it would be something that you might want to consider. And for you guys at Towanda that just have a couple of players, if you wanted to start thinking about, well, what could we add to that potentially? It really, Gary, I don't know if you noticed it on Sundays, but it really adds that foundation that sometimes it's not there to have strings and stuff like that. Yep. Right. Yeah. The worship the players, multi-track players, give you some key options, and some of them give you some tempo options too. So there's some variety, more so than I'll show you another option of a set of worship backing band for getting charts and stuff like that. And they only give you a couple of key options. And once you buy one key, you have to buy another. If you buy another key, you have to actually buy another key. You don't get to change keys there. So yeah, there's some good options with that. And again, you before you did that, you'd want to go and do a comparison and see what would really fit your culture. So any other questions on that? That's the multi-track part. I talked about the worship backing band. Right below that, lifewayworship.com. This is another option. You guys, anybody using that? Lifewayworship.com. Where do you guys get your charts? Okay. Yeah, so you guys are using Song Select, all right? Which is lifewayworship.com is similar to Song Select when you're now. If your band pretty much plays, are you guys using tabs, chord charts? What are you using? Okay. All right, so those churches that maybe have a rhythm section that plays charts, but they have a keyboard player that doesn't read chord charts and actually reads a score. Lifeway Worship is an option for that Song Select doesn't have. Yeah, yeah. Let me show. Yeah, let me show you. It has everything. Yeah. So let me pull that up and I'll show you. Lifeway Worship, Lifeway bookstores. You know that the standalone bookstores they're closing, but the online Lifeway is still available. Lifeway Worship is a free resource to join, and then you just pay for what you buy. So you go to lifewayworship.com. Now pull this up here, and you can say find music, or you can just look for charts here. So somebody give me a song title. Maybe some of you guys are playing tomorrow. Okay. All right. So Lifeway Worship's got a couple of options. There's an orchestra option and a Lifeway Worship song option. And see, let me show you this up here too. What Lifeway did was, in 2000, they printed, they've done hymnals, hardbound hymnals. In 2000, they printed a hardbound hymnal, but they knew that as soon as it gets in the pew racks, it's outdated. And so what they determined, we want a backless resource that provides great hymn arrangements, contemporary hymns, modern worship songs, and we want that to be backless. So what they did was, they started with those hymns, but then they've added thousands of other titles to that, and they're constantly adding new stuff. But you can do a search, and I don't know if you can see that or not up there, but you can search according to stylistic what fits your culture. Contemporary hymn, praise charts, worship song, multi-tracks, they have too, options there. So let's just look at Living Hope. Is it the Phil Wickham one that you're doing? Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be pretty close to his arrangement. This tells what keys it's available in. A, B flat, C, D, E flat. And what Lifeway Worship has done, which I think is a great thing, it's not so, wouldn't be true for those of you that play regularly, but some of these churches that don't have a clue what keys mean, they wouldn't know what key to actually sing or play something in. So they'll download a chart that's in the key of not singable. And what Lifeway Worship did was they've only made charts available in singable congregational keys. So they're not pressing the outside part of that, so somebody's not going to make a mistake. And so that's what they've done. Some of their songs are only offered in a couple of keys. But like Living Hope, what key you guys doing it in? B? Yeah, it's not up there. Yeah, that's the key of hard. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's not given as an option, but that's wouldn't it much be different than C or something like that? Yeah. So what you got here is, yeah. Yes, they are. They've got both. Yeah. So this is one where you buy the chart, and you open. Let me just open it up. I'll show it to you. It'll give a demo. So it's got the full accompaniment for that with the melody line. And so it's got the full keyboard score for that. But you can also buy, for those keyboard players that just play off a lead sheet or a chord chart, you can buy the charts. Lead sheet for singers also has the melody line and the chord tabs. Okay, so it gives you that option. It also has vocal charts that offer parts. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Planning Center. From Lifeway Worship now, there's actually a tab on Lifeway Worship that automatically imports it into Planning Center from Lifeway Worship. So you don't have to take an extra step. I'll show you that step in just a second. That's a great question. Are you guys familiar with Planning Center online? All right, you guys using that now? Okay. We'll talk about that in a sec. Yeah, Planning Center. Yeah, it's just planning. It's actually on your sheet there, planningcenteronline.com. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Let me show you some more features on Lifeway Worship. So if you click on the charts here, then it'll show you every part that's available. So if you've got a tuba player and a alto sax player in your worship band, you can order parts just for those instruments. Now, some of the ones I have listed on here, and this is where I think this is better in some ways than Song Select, because you start adding instruments, unless if you got a string player that can just read charts, great. But if you had a high school band player that can only read score, this is an option for that for them. Now, the song charts here, Lifeway Worship, Song Select, which you guys use, and praise charts. Praise charts, I wouldn't recommend if you just have a rhythm section, because you have to order the whole orchestration, which is all the parts, and you're paying like $35 for a song, and you're only using potentially a few parts of it. So that's why I like Lifeway Worship. If you see on the right where it says it has one price here and then it has or less, you can actually prepay an amount each year. If you think we've got a budget of $500 we're going to spend on charts, And if we go ahead and send that to Lifeway Worship, then per copy song is going to be much less than if you just buy it individually. And that's kind of like you have an account set up, and it's much less expensive. Pay annually. And if your church has a Lifeway account, so if you get literature for small groups or anything like that from Lifeway, all you have to do is when you check out, you put the account number in there, and then they just bill you at the end of the month from Lifeway for the charts. Yeah, because you pay ahead. It's like you set up almost an account and you're paying ahead on it to do that, but you can do that through Lifeway Worship, or you can do it on a credit card too. You have both those options when you check out. So at the end of the year, if you don't use it, you lose it? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yep. Yeah. It also has tracks. Like I mentioned before, on the worship backing band, they have the split track. But on these, the split track and the projected text are not integrated together, so you actually have to buy those separately, which means you got to have more than one operator, where worship backing band was just one operator. So they've got split track or stereo track. They've got the multi-tracks too for a lot of this stuff, so you can see multi-tracks are not cheap. But once you buy this stuff from Lifeway Worship, it's yours, and you don't have to buy it again. Let me show you. Yeah. So I poured on the piano, and we have it's not really a lead guitar because all he does is chord. Yeah. And I've heard people complain because they can't hear melody. Yeah. So that would help you do that. Yeah. So once you've bought stuff, I don't know how you guys are, what you do with your charts, if you have to try to file those. On Lifeway Worship, they keep those for you. So each time you want to use it, you can just go in there and you can download the charts. So like right here, under my library, these are places where I've gone in to some of our churches and done like a 6-month, 12-month interim to help them make a transition before they call a new worship pastor. And so you can see some of the charts. I ordered 3 copies because they just had a small rhythm section, and some of them I had 17 charts because they had kind of an orchestra kind of thing going on. And so all those are still available there. And then you can go in, and if you're missing a part, you can go in and actually order another part. So like you've added another instrumentalist next time, and you just order that one chart, and it's there and it's available to you. Now this comes back to your question, Micah, is that right? Here you can download the parts, or you can send them to Planning Center from right there. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, they have a partnership with Planning Center where they're both still standalone, but you can import anything from Lifeway Worship to Planning Center. One of the best resources they added to this site was that option, because it's great when you're trying to set up a service plan and you're doing it from your site. Yeah. Yeah, and when we get to Planning Center, I want you to speak to that too, of how that's a great resource, because I'm going to. Any questions on Lifeway Worship? They also have this option where they have these worship song sets, much like Worship Backing Band did, but they're not adaptable. You can't create your own sets. They've just created them for you. And so you buy like, okay, a worship song set, God's Glory. And so it's 11 minutes and 40-second worship set. It'll tell you what songs they are. This additional info here. So holy is the Lord, beautiful one, indescribable. And you can get then the split track for it. You can get the charts for it. You can get the projection stuff for it. All the projection stuff is PowerPoint, but you can import all those into whatever other service you're using. That's one I would encourage you. It doesn't cost anything to join. Go in there and just join and dig around and just see what's available. Because I've tried to like stump it and find out if a song maybe is not there yet, and they really get stuff up quick. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that? Go to the middle of the first page there, the worship service media resources. You guys using video clips or anything like that, movie clips or anything? Yeah. Igniter Media is probably my favorite of the two. Igniter or Worship House Media, ignitermedia.com. Let me pull it up and I'll show you what's available there. It has slide backgrounds. So this is ignitermedia.com. It used to be gracewaymedia.com, and they changed their name. You can get slide backgrounds. You can get video clips. You can get movie clips. I used it too for, I was interim pastor at one of our church. I've used it several of them, but we did like sermon series, and they have slide backgrounds. And then the church secretary would use the same slide background for any kind of mail out stuff, for newsletters, for the whole series. So we kind of branded it through there. And they've got little video clips too. You can buy an annual subscription to this, or you can buy per item. And so I'll show you this first one. I'll just show you a clip. It's a 1.5-minute clip on Easter. And I think it's like $18 if you just bought it. But if you have an annual subscription, it's a part of that subscription. So this is just a sample to show you what some of the things they have to offer.
Long ago, this is what they felt like when it happened. And today, it's how we should feel too. Because what it meant for them, it means for us.
So that's, some churches use those for bumpers, or if they've got a series, you can do searches on there for scripture text or thematic kind of things. They've got all kinds of clips like that you can get. There's other resources out there like that for clips and stuff like that. What? This Igniter, and when you buy the subscription to Igniter or buy then that's your license to actually use that clip too. So you don't have to have a separate CVLI license for these. Yeah. Whereas if you're pulling clips out of movies and stuff like that, you've got to have a CVLI license to actually use those. You're buying the rights to these. Okay. In addition to that, they've got background stuff. Let me show you an example. This is one I did for a sermon series on the parables. So this is one of their backgrounds. That was the title of the series. And so the church secretary used this as, they still had a hard copy bulletin, and they used that as a bulletin cover. She used that as a newsletter that she would send out. She used it electronically on their Facebook page for the whole sermon series. And so that's available. It's also customizable, so you can add text boxes to it and put other text on there. So you can see then there's different slide options. There are like 4 or 5 different backgrounds for each one of those. And so we did all the songs and all the sermon text as a part of that through the whole series, just to keep kind of that branding that all the way through that. So that's just one sample of some of those backgrounds that are available on there. So that's just another resource. All right, any questions on those? Worship House Media is similar. Not sure you need both of them, but they're both good options. Okay. Are you guys using, did anybody go to the other, like the social media one? Okay. Because James is going to be talking about some of this stuff too, but are you guys using any kind of, do you have like a church Facebook page? All right. You like on Facebook Live? Gotcha. Okay. All right. So here's KNCSB's page. These are pictures I loaded this morning from you guys leading up there. You can see that. It's kind of long distance away. But if your church has a Facebook page and it's more like a private page like you would have, you can't do this. But if it's an organizational page, you can. Do you guys do any post boosting? We have not. All right. Let me show you how it works. Just for the future, it's a great resource to get the word out about something you've got going on. I use it sometimes on our KNCSB site if we've got an event coming up and I want to promote it across our 2-state area. And so I'll use this as an example. This is the post from this morning, and so I would click that boost post. And there's lots of options here, but just let me show you a couple of them. You can do people you choose through targeting by name, or you can do people who like your page and their friends. But I clicked here, people in your local area. So it's Topeka, since that's where my KNCSB site's from. You can do a mileage thing. You can actually do zip code. You can do states. But just for the sake of looking at this, let's say we're going to target a 10-mile radius of our church. Okay, and we've got this event we're going to promote. So we've got 10-mile radius, check there. And then we want to do it for 7 days, and we want to spend $50 total. Okay, so it even says we're going to spend $7.14 per day for that week. And you can adjust this number of days. You can add or subtract from that. You can do a starting ending date, and you can adjust how much you want to spend. And it'll tell you how much. But we just want to spend $50. So then it says that our average reach per day of people is 1,700 to 5,000 people estimated per day that we're going to actually reach with this message. Now, does that mean everybody's going to open it? No. But you're going to reach that many people per day. Imagine if you said, okay, we're going to have this event and we're going to send a mail out in a 10-mile radius around our church, and we're going to send out 1,700 to 5,000 of those per day for that week, what that would cost. Now, we have realized, and we've got analytics on this, of the impact when we start boosting of how much response we get back as opposed to just doing a regular post. So regular post engagement, we might get 150, 200, whereas when we do a boosted post, the post engagement is going to be more in the thousands. And the post engagement is actually not just people that happen to see it, but that's actually people who have liked it or shared it or commented on it. And so our post engagement has more than quadrupled probably, or beyond that even, maybe 10 times when we actually boost those posts for not a lot of money. And so that's an option for just promoting stuff.
How does that work as far as it getting out? Does it just come across your Facebook page if you're in that area?
It does. Their news feed, and it's not just people that like your church or like your page. When you do a radius thing like that, it's anybody that's on Facebook in that area have potential for actually seeing that.
That's awesome.
Okay, you've seen those on your own feed. If you're ever on Facebook, you see stuff and you think, "Where'd that come from?" Yeah, I don't know those people. I don't follow those people. I mean, and you wouldn't want to do it so that you were a nuisance, but for big events and for promoting something, it's a great tool just to say, "Hey, we've got this coming up. We've got a big event." And it hopefully would draw some attention for just not a lot of money.
And you said that it can't be just a regular personal account on Facebook.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me show you. Let me cancel that ad because I don't want to do that one. So let me go to my page. So this is my a young round table. Thursday in Topeka. And so this was an event that we had, and so I shared it on my page here, but you see there's no boost option. So on a personal page, you don't have the option of boosting it to get it more. Now here's the reality of Facebook. The algorithms set up on Facebook are determining who sees my personal page. When you're giving them money, that's when they start really exponentially getting that out. So that's where they're making their money, off the ads and off the boosts. So it's going to go out a lot further than a private page would anyway. Even you can't boost that one.
So the boost page comes with a subscription fee, like it's a.
The boost page comes just with an organizational page.
Okay, so it doesn't cost money to have that.
It does not cost any money to have an organizational page, but it gives you the option when you actually boost it is when you have to pay.
Fantastic. That's what
Yep.
I want to know. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's turn to the next page there. I think that's enough on that one. The second side of that page. This is just some options here. I wanted to show you this. This is actually more of a guitar monitor than anything, but I use it as a little portable sound system when I'm traveling. It's a Roland Cube, Roland company. It's available. There's some other sites there where it's available. You can order online. It's about $250. It has a guitar or keyboard input, has a single mic jack input, and then it has an input where you can play media stuff. You can use an iPhone with it. I've got my laptop hooked up into it. It has enough volume that one of our church plants is meeting in a gym. That's all they're using. Now, they don't have band that they're playing out of it, but for projection, for teaching, for playing music and stuff like that.
You don't have a big system, you can use that to control your.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mentioned to you that when I was leading worship to demonstrate, I led worship just with my laptop with this Roland Cube in the worship center at this church and the projector. And so it really will crank up the sound pretty well. In fact, let me play something, let you hear volume-wise.
How much can you play through that? Like can you connect it with a mixer, or
Yeah, no, it just has a couple of inputs there. So you would want, if you just, if you were out just playing your guitar and wanted a mic, it'd be great. But if you're doing band stuff, this is not the thing for it. Yeah. So if you got a youth group and you're, going someplace and want to just carry something that's not heavy. And one good thing about this too is on the bottom, it's got it's threaded for a mic stand. So you can put it up higher and just set it on top of a mic stand. And so it's really, really handy for a little small, not much money, $250.
For our little place that has one guitar,
Yes.
the only thing.
Yeah, let me play. See, that's just the volume on my laptop. This is not turned up all the way yet. And you get, and it's also got adjustments for EQ stuff too. So if you want a little low end, it's got some EQ options there too. Yeah. A sound system that I've used as a great portable system, if you're talking about a portable system beyond this that's a little bit more flexible, is a Fender Passport. I don't know if you guys use those or not. You like drop them off of the back of a truck and they're not going to bust because it's like this hard plastic case where the speakers clamp onto the end and the mixer's actually the middle part. It's got 4 mic inputs. It's got guitar input, keyboard input, and all that. So we've used those in parks and youth trips and all that kind of stuff where kids are carrying it and banging it and it's got stands that you put the speakers on. So that's a great option too. Yeah, they've got like a 250 and a 350. Just depending on that's not cost, that's output stuff. So yeah, they may even have a bigger one than that now, but I think the 350 is what I've got. Okay, these other sites. You said you guys have a digital board. Do you have a Behringer? What do you have? Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's what our church uses. Great, isn't that a great board? Do you have a digital board? Yeah, if most churches have an analog. Yeah, so does Behringer, but the digital board, and you guys will know more about it probably than I do, the digital board is just that. It's digitally set. So I know our church has multiple tech people, and so every Sunday, it's not like a new day. Some of those settings are preset, so they can go right back to those settings. Yeah.
It's manual
It just, yeah, just, what's that?
It's digitally set. It's not like you have to move it with your hands, is what you're saying?
You can.
Programs
You've got, yeah, you can, but they've got the option. It still gives flexibility for the tech person to adjust because you're going to have different singers on any Sunday, and even the acoustics in the building, depending on how many people you have, are going to determine that too.
House volume is the only thing that is not preset. So you can change it all. And so for us, when we had two services, traditional services, we did the volume significantly lower, but musicians still hear. So everything that's coming out of the ears, everything that's coming out of the speakers is
Yeah.
all the same. But you can adjust the house bands.
Yeah.
From Sunday to Sunday, instead of somebody messing with the sound.
Yep.
I can't hear this. Nope. And if you're smart enough to say the top way down where nobody finds it, all the reset. There's a reset button. Just reset.
Yeah. Yeah, and so too, it keeps a lot of bad things happening in the services that can happen. Yeah, it really, they're not cheap. They're kind of an initial investment, but it's worth it if you can do it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the question I was gonna ask, and I'm really not involved with the music.
Yep.
I enjoy it a lot. If you're coming from a church like ours, which is kind of in a new place of just right now we're trying to maintain on what we have.
Right.
Make this flourish. If we were gonna, let's say several of us were gonna get together and make an investment towards the worship, which would be the best place to start for an investment to making your worship? If you don't have any of that stuff, where would you start? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be that beneficial for you to have a great Behringer digital board if you don't have great speakers and system to accommodate that. So,
Microphones that you have to get right here.
yeah. I mean, what do you guys think? Yeah. I mean,
Depends on how the rest of your church does. Like for us, for instance, the only piece that I would say we're lacking is the digital board. You have a 20-year-old TV that's never going to die, no matter how many cups of coffee I spill on it. And so, in our instance, that would be the most beneficial because our sound guys are not well trained in they rotate, and so a board like that would help them and help the frustration between the band and the house. Because you could have you could even hire somebody to come in and set your level and then keep them there.
mhm.
We have nothing in it.
And you don't have
It
to
doesn't
have.
matter, even on your monitor.
Everything is just the
The
monitor.
thing you would start with, truthfully, is a good sound man. Because what we had for years was 8 stage monitors that was the equivalent of 8 additional speakers in the whole room. And so we did, and I crushed it. I hate those things. But when we finally got someone who knew what they were doing and would listen to say, okay, this is if you can get your publication back at what you're doing, you can get further ahead than your because not us.
Yeah.
A guitarist and another man with a mic, and then we have to showcase these two guys.
Yeah.
But to get them to all be, say, 3 mics, that mic's not gonna pick anybody up.
Yeah. Good mics are not that expensive anymore. They used to be really expensive to buy good mics, and that's not true anymore.
If they have a little thing where you slide it on.
Yeah.
So what is a good mic? Are you gonna tell us that?
Man, there's so many out there. Go to some of these sites here, the Sweetwater or Music 123, even Guitar Center, and just look on there. And a lot of them they'll have reviews, and you'll hear some people that are saying this, don't buy this. Yeah, I think that'd be a better recommendation than me just saying, hey, get this Shure or Behringer or whatever.
We have those ones here for choir.
Yeah.
Way up here.
Yep.
And you don't take anything out unless you're really belting us to France.
Yeah. Let me move on because I know you guys have to lead worship, don't you? Yep. So there's a couple of sites. This may help you guys too that I want to recommend. I told you about the renewingworshipnc.org. Check that out. That's my friend Kenny Lamb, and it's got some great practical resources. Let me see where I've got him. Let me just pull it up real quick. Yep. So like his post this last week, you'll see when I pull it up here, is a comparison of multi-track options. And so he's taken, you can see right there, he's got worship backing band, multitracks.com loop, fly, praise charts. So he does a comparison of cost, accessibility, what charts available. So it's real practical. I've got a blog, and mine is more philosophical, theological, and that's worshipevaluation.org. I just post usually an article on Monday, and then post kind of a quote about midweek, usually from one of my other posts. So that's also available there. I know you guys have to lead. Let me tell you a quick story before you go, because we're talking about in-ears. We've got a church in Topeka that they had 2 services going on simultaneously because of their space. So in the worship center, they had a service going on, and the fellowship hall, they had a service going on, and they were bleeding over in each other, and they were trying to figure out, what do we do to accommodate this? So the worship leader there, they were all using in-ears, and so what they did was they all played off click track, and both services were off the same click, the same loop, and played the services simultaneously together off the same click. And so they're playing exactly the same songs at exactly the same time off the click track with different worship leaders in both venues. Can you imagine? Yeah. They work for them. Yeah. Yeah, but they also had a thing at Christmas time where they had the parking lot behind their building. They had like all these older building that had 2 floors of windows, and they would do a Christmas thing where their band each player would be in another window with in-ears, and people would pull their cars up, and they had it on a radio station local. They played live Christmas music, and they would have like 10,000 cars that would come in for the season to see that. So they were used to playing like that, and they were able to do it both at the same time. Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, thank you guys for leading today. Any other questions, the rest of you? I think we're about done here. I would encourage you to take that sheet, dig into it, and look at some of those things that might have interested you. Okay? Thanks.